when you can be with someone and fart in front of them.
Oh, we are going to get along so well, Alex.
I might as well plug myself. Shut up for a second. We'll go business now.
Welcome to the eleventylife podcast.
What's up, 11ty-lifers? I am so happy that you have decided to join us for this podcast episode. Oh my God, it's a good one. As many of you guys know, we hosted a Kickstarter campaign to fund the release of our latest album, Rad Science, and it was amazing. You guys came out in full force. One of the incentives that we had in that Kickstarter was a guest spot on this podcast, 11ty-life. We absolutely hit the jackpot because the one person who got this incentive is a guy named Alex Watts, who is a comedian in the UK. I got to sit down with him a couple of weeks back, and oh my gosh, we had the best time. This was really fun for me because it was literally me just sitting down, talking with an 11ty fan who I had never met, who lives on the other end of the planet. I wasn't even sure how he had even heard of our band. I would liken this experience to maybe speed dating a pen pal. We literally just got to sit down over Skype and have an amazing and fun conversation, just talking about life and love and comedy and music and what it was like growing up and how our experiences were different, how they were similar. I literally had so much fun doing this episode. It makes me want to do more episodes where I literally just Skype fans and talk about whatever they want to talk about, because this one worked out really well. Speaking of fans, before we start today's show, if you are a fan, I'd like to give you something really quick. We are having a sale on all of the vinyl that we offer in the Rock Candy Recordings online store right now, specifically for 11ty-life listeners. If you love this podcast and you want to support what we're doing, we are giving you $5 off any vinyl in our store right now. All you have to do is enter the code 11tylife, the name of the podcast. When you go to checkout, it will immediately take $5 off of any vinyl that you order. We have a link to the online store in the show notes. This is just a little way that we have of saying thank you to everyone who keeps tuning into the podcast, who keeps checking us out, writing reviews online. We love getting the iTunes reviews. We love all of the brand new listeners who are finding out about us via Spotify. We cannot thank you enough for all of the support and love that you send our band and the podcast. And thank you so much for telling your friends about it. You're clearly telling your friends about it and doing a really good job, because we're seeing them pop up all over the internets. So that's enough of an intro. Let's get into the episode. So we'll just count it off and we'll do a little clap so we can see what the latency is between you and I. So on 4 we'll clap. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, clap.
Okay.
But you're gonna have to, like, every muso piece of your body, you're gonna have to really tie it together for this. Okay.
I'll try.
1, 2. Damn it, Alex! You're all ready.
That's what I do.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Is it that far away? Is the latency that bad?
Apparently so.
Wow. 1, 2, 3. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. Cool. So there's at least a 2 seconds of latency between you and I think.
I can do a lot with that 2 seconds.
Right? You could change your mind. You might have a different answer 2 seconds from now.
Okay, well, I don't change my mind. That's the problem with me. I just keep saying things without really having any idea how the sentence will finish. I just keep going.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's some of my best work. It's just letting myself ramble. It doesn't always work, and sometimes it makes parties awkward.
It's where I do public speaking, but the best thing to do in the entire world to practice, I pace up and down my office and I will just start talking. I will have no idea what point I'll try and get to. And I'm going to try and I'm going to start talking about apples, and I'm going to somehow turn that sentence into a topic of inspiration. Then I'll just keep talking.
I love that. I feel like this might be a delicate question to ask. Are you on the spectrum at all?
Yeah,
because
ADHD,
I feel like
high functioning.
Right. I feel like I have a lot of my friends that sort of do that. I've never taken a test. Like I don't know where I fit on it. I know I'm pretty highly distractible, and I feel like I flip-flop between getting super into my own head when working out thoughts or trying to like make connections, or it's just complete word vomit, and then I'll come back and pick up the pieces later and see if they work or if they don't.
So it's years of practice as a comedian and public speaking that I am no good at being short with sentences. So when I do a radio interview, they're like, hey, we're going to keep this to a tight 5.
Right. I'm
like, I can't even say my name in a tight 5. I need to tell you why I was called Alex, like what my parents were doing that day. I need to tell you everything.
Right.
I don't do a tight 5.
Man, that's awesome. So tell me about you. How did you get into comedy? How'd you get into personality stuff? So
what happened was I moved to the small Isle of Wight on the south coast of England about 7 years ago this week. And it was for love. I found love on the internet and still with her. And we went to a comedy show. She knew I liked comedy. My brother had done comedy. I'd done some music stuff in the past. I was used to being on stage and stuff, and I missed it. So we went to a comedy night, and they were like, hey, we have some open mic slots available in between structured comedians. And I was like, I'll give it a go. Because I thought, I can be better than these guys. I've seen things on the internet, and I can steal from comedians that these people haven't heard of yet.
Of course.
So I did a set, and I enjoyed it, and a guy came up to me afterwards and was like, hey, I know that obscure comedian you stole that one from. And I was like, you shut your mouth. So I just carried on doing it, and my partner was a cabaret dancer. She used to do a burlesque in cabaret.
You met a cabaret dancer girlfriend on the internet, and you ended up at a comedy show discovering your own passion for life. That's amazing.
At no point have I woken up in an ice bath with one of my kidneys missing. I met a girl online. Yeah.
Well, there's that.
Lured me in. What's your blood type? That's a weird question. So she was doing cabaret shows, and she had one booked with some friends, and they were doing one locally, and the compere dropped out on the day. He was like, I can't come in, I'm double booked. And I was like, this is my moment. So I is that your Robin
Williams? If that was your Robin Williams, that's no. Insane.
Yeah, I do that accidentally from time to time. Okay. So Robin Williams is my comedy inspiration. I took smoking just for that moment. I was just like, okay, this is my moment. And I'll host this show. And I did it. Like I had to learn all these like names and stuff. Yeah. Like on the fly. And it was really nice. I got to do bits in between. So the performer comes on, then you have to entertain for 2 minutes while they clean the stage up. That came out terribly. Where people throwing money. Right. Until their clothes had fallen off. So I was then entertaining a crowd for 2 minutes at a time, which kind of helped me hone my ability to end sentences quickly. And then another guy was like, hey, I've got a show in like another city. Do you want to go to that? I was like, yeah, why not? Okay, we'll do it. And then at that point, I started writing my own jokes, which was nice. And I got a bit of reputation. I got to travel. I did some stuff in Europe. I did some stuff all over the UK, doing comedy in the cabaret world. And because I'm quite eccentric, it was really useful to me because I can't just do sets that are just like, hey, the other day I was walking down the street. I like to tell like really broad stories. I can't set them up. Like a good comedian who can do a type 5 will do set up, middle, punchline, 30 seconds. Right. I can't do it. I just can't because I'm like, and the other day I saw a squirrel. And I'll just go on that for a while. And so I just ended up enjoying that. And then my friend Dan, who's a professional YouTuber, he was like, we need to do some public speaking. So this year, we just started traveling and doing public speaking about autism and ADHD. Living the dream. I'm not sure how it works,
that's amazing. Is that more of a sort of passion project? Are there some organizations that are kind of like getting behind what you guys are doing or sponsoring what you guys are doing?
So yeah, for the one we did this year, this is the first time this year where it's felt like a genuine like, hey, I should quit my job and do this kind of thing.
It's amazing.
We were in Spain. We were the Autism Council, I don't know, it was in Spanish, invited us out. And it will come back to latency on this one because I was talking in English and they said like it's a room full of Spanish people and they all had those headsets on that they translate, and we had a translator at the back who was live translating as we spoke. I had one, Dan had another. Right. So we were saying things and then the audience were catching up 2 or 3 seconds later. And because I do comedy and I'm used to working on beats, it was like they said to me, hey, if you do a joke, don't worry if they don't laugh straight away. They'll get it, but just keep going.
So weird.
So I told a joke, can llamas climb trees? And expecting the ha instantaneously.
Right.
But then you just carry on into the next sentence. And then they start laughing midway through your next sentence. And that was quite weird. But then at the back is people who are deaf with autism.
Right.
And they had a signer who is working a little bit slower than the translator.
Oh my gosh.
So, and do you know how deaf people tend to laugh?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
They put their hands up.
Right.
So I hit my beat. 2 seconds later, the audience catches up, and then about another 2 seconds after that, it's just the back does that. It was a peculiar thing, but because everyone was such in a weird time, I enjoyed working with it. And so we sat down after that with the people who organised it, and they're like, "Hey, we will contact the Autism Council of Europe." I didn't realise there was an Autism Council, and we'll get you to do a tour next year. So we've both been looking at each other and going, shall we quit? His job is YouTube. He's a professional YouTuber. I'm just ambling around doing shenanigans. I have no real ties to anything.
You're a professional shenanigizer.
I am. It is a genuine career profession I'm hopefully going to coin because I just do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a creator. I rent this office purely because I was like, I need a space to just do stuff. What do you want to do with the space, Alex? I don't know. I don't know. I'll figure that out. Like I live to just do silly things at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the question was. I just waffled. But the thing that me and Dan did, I met Dan after I lied my way into a tour years ago with Zebrahead, who you worked with.
Oh, yeah.
So I couldn't get tickets to one of their shows locally. I turned up 7 hours before the show with a clipboard and a badly photoshopped fan club moderator badge. Knocked on the venue door, and I was like, "Hey, I run the fan club," and they were like, "The band's not here yet, but you can hang out." And I was like, "Okay." So they let me in the venue, and then when Zebrahead arrived on their tour bus, I was first one out the door. I ditched the clipboard and the badge and was like, "Hey, what's up? I work at the venue. Do you want me to help you with your gear?"
Oh my gosh.
And it kickstarted an amazing friendship with that band, which lasted a few years. I did some tours with them, and then I met Dan on one of those tours. And the first thing that me and Dan tried to do was email you 10 years ago, almost to the day.
What?
Because I think you were doing something I think you were planning something in Europe. I think 10 years ago. I think I spoke to maybe a manager of yours, and he was like,
God.
"We'll work something out." 10 years ago.
I can't remember who we had managing us 10 years ago. We've had terrible luck with management.
The first thing me and Dan did was bond over your band.
Oh my gosh, you and Dan.
So the first thing he ever did to me, he came up to me at the gig. Like I was the more famous one than him at this point, and he asked for a photo with me, and then he gave me like a piece of paper. You know, like you pass a note in school. It's like, "Do you like me? Yes or no?" Circle. And stuff. That's what Dan gave to me. Like the first thing was like, boom, hit me. So I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna be friends forever." And so,
as long as we both need affirmation, we will be friends.
That's almost 10 years to the day where that happened. Actually, it was on a tour 10 years ago. I was on the tour 10 years ago at this point. So that date may be coming up. That anniversary may be coming up in the next few days.
Alex, how old are you?
30 this year.
Oh wow, that's amazing. We're pretty close to the same age.
I know.
That's amazing.
It's fun.
Yeah. So there's so much about your story already that I'm like, well, oh my gosh, how does that even happen? I think we did.
I don't know either.
We did like a couple of shows with Zebrahead in Japan, I think, but they wouldn't know who we were. Like, because maybe we passed them backstage or something. That's so cool that you got to be friends with the band. They kind of, I think they could probably fill some clubs here stateside, but I don't know are they like a pretty big deal in the UK or? They
are, I think they're one of the last bastions of that old era that are still like not changing their sound. So like the bands like Bowling for Soup who did the same thing for their entire career. Right. That same thing, like Zebrahead have just never changed their sound. Like, your Linkin Parks and your Good Charlottes and your Sum 41s, they changed and adapted. There's no they changed, they adapted, they evolved. Zebrahead have always just been rap rock, party rock music since 1996. So they have a good nostalgia fan base here, but they also have a very good consistent new generation like respect. Whenever like a kid becomes 16, they want to go see Zebrahead because they've heard so much.
Oh, wow.
It's a good band.
So they're kind of the stuff of legend now within the UK rock scene.
Yeah, I consider one of my highlights in my life as being in the thank you credits for a couple of their albums.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
I was like, I made it. Didn't make any money, but I made it. Look, my name's in there. Unlike your album, I actually got to be in their credits.
Oh, shit. Oh, burn.
Yeah, there's just me and Microchip completely left off.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, about that. Yeah. So that might be the elephant in the room, and I don't mind addressing it.
I've been holding on to this one for like a year.
Yeah. Yes. Hopefully we have many more interesting things to talk about besides that.
Yeah.
So so what Davey and I weren't, and Davey's not here, by the way, because he just got out of surgery. He had like a deviated septum, which basically means he can't breathe out of his nose. And so,
yeah, I know what a deviated septum
so
is.
he just had to go in there and have the doctors like drill an extra hole in his skull so he could breathe.
Where I'm from, that means you've done far too much cocaine.
Far too much cocaine. Yeah, I can't say that that's necessarily true for Davey, although he is quite chipper most of the time. Yeah, we just when we started the band back up and wanted to take that seriously, it just everything kind of kept snowballing through the Kickstarter. And then before we knew it, it was like, oh my gosh, we literally have no help with this. And I was in the middle of losing this job that I had at a college. We were in the middle of moving houses and just so many different things were changing in our life at this one time. And I thought, oh, this will be cool because at least Davey and I can kind of split the load of fulfilling orders and making sure all of this is right. Yeah, I'll rephrase that later. I'll edit that out. But it was there was just so much, Alex. There was so much to do. There's because we also run the record label. So it's we don't have people that come in and do any of that stuff. We have to hire graphic designers when they don't work out. We have to fix everything that they did. We're doing all the production and mixing for everything. And not only that, but we're also handling other artists at the same time that we're doing all of this. And I should have handed off. I should have had somebody look over all the stuff that was flying out of the office at the time. And that's why
it becomes really hard.
Yeah.
It becomes really hard when you're trying to be, you want to be a band, but nowadays you have to be the business and everything around it.
Oh yeah.
There's no A&R guy anymore.
Absolutely.
There's no anything.
Yeah. And I feel we hit on this all the time. It's there are no such things as bands anymore. They're just cottage industries. You really do have to be, I mean, you would know that because you're a public personality. You're probably your own IT department and graphic design and and everything.
Yeah, I have to. Years ago, people who are doing it, even at the level I'm at now, they'd have a manager maybe. Yeah. As much as I have a representative, but I don't have a manager. That person isn't around in their office going, right, let's get Alex some gigs. I have to go to them and say, I've got these gigs, help.
What? That sounds so ridiculous. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it sounds like you would benefit from having a manager. We would benefit from a manager. We just
everyone needs a manager.
Exactly. So
everyone needs
So explain to me why you're paying this person to accept.
It's not so much a payment plan. They take a tiny fraction because my brain just amasses things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like all the stuff I do with Dan. He has a publicist, and that publicist kind of helps us both pro bono a little bit. Yeah. And we go, look, we've gathered all of this stuff, and we hate puzzles. we've accepted, we've just said yes to everything. Can you please make this a list for us? Yeah. Can you figure out the logistics of everything we've just agreed to? And that's why. Because we fly to VidCon later this year, and we have someone help us with all those shenanigans and all the arrangements. And when we did, Dan released a book last year, and us meeting up requires so much coordination because he is more autistic than me. He can't do public transport, so I had to travel from the south of a South Island on the south coast of the Isle of Wight to the north side of Wales, which is an arduous journey. Frodo would complain, and I had to go and get him I had to go all the way. I had to go hundreds of miles to get him. And he walked onto a train. We then did most of that journey back to London, like, so he could travel.
Alex,
he can't travel by himself.
You're Samwise. You're Samwise. You're carrying Frodo. You're the actual hero, not Elijah fucking Wood.
The loop of that is I'll actually be interviewing Sean Astin later this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
I understand your pain. From London to my house is not very far. It's about an hour and a half, maybe 2. But from London to Dan's house is 6 hours. So I had to go to London, to Wales, to get Dan back to London, take him back to Wales, come back to London, go back to the Isle of Wight.
Right.
That was it requires someone else with a slightly more. I can't even think of the right word, because I'm the kind of person who'll just go, while I'm in this town, I'm going to go look over there, and I'll just completely commit a connection.
Right.
And whereas Dan is very much like he lives his life by an itinerary, and I don't. So we need someone who can just go, right, you have an hour and a half here to dick around. Like, that can go be me.
Yeah, boundaries are so important. Yeah. I realize that I need them in my life as well. I'm really terrible at setting them. I have a terrible work-life balance. Yeah, and I just love kind of following my folly, and but I really love my life. Like, I'm pretty happy.
It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not married. I don't have kids or anything like that. And all of my friends are. So they're like married with kids. You know, like you see their Facebook statuses now. They've gone from like, we're getting wrecked in the clubs to look at my new kitchen.
Look at my new kitchen.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And like, I had a day off and I built a fort. And inside that fort, I listened to your album. I watched some Rick and Morty, and I had some Pop-Tarts. And I thought to myself, I'm going to share my day with the internet. So I took some photos because it was impressive. And I went to go post them on Facebook. And like, I'm suddenly seeing people I was at school with, like people I was in like terrible bands with. They're like, hey, check out what me and my wife did today. Look at the garden now. And the other guy's like, I just bought a Lexus. And I'm like, look at my fort. I did a thing. Check me out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know what? When you said that, it kind of like all came into focus for me. I think 11D is pillow fort rock. I mean, that's what it is. It's completely perfect for that.
I've got some unicorns behind me. Actually, your jumper is a pillow over here.
Oh my gosh!
Over there, yeah.
So you took the hoodie and immediately created something. You got so bored with the hoodie, you had to make a pillow out of it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, I have the T-shirt, which everything came so individually as well. I like how you did that. That must have been expensive.
It was very expensive. You are hands down the most expensive
but
backer of the campaign.
It works.
Oh my gosh, that looks amazing. For everybody that's listening at home, he's literally holding up our framed vinyl for Galactic and for Rad Science. It looks amazing. Yeah. I can't believe that you have that in your office. I feel so honored.
They will be joining the collection of everything else on the back. So this Alistair poster, which is behind me from Last Stop Suburbia.
Nice.
You're an Alistair fan, surely.
Oh, yeah.
So they did their album front to back in a very small town. About 16 people went, and they were like, we've got nowhere to stay tonight. And we were like, you can stay at ours. We didn't have a place. And they were like, we're staying at that guy's house. So we had to talk to another guy who was in attendance who lived locally. Like, hey, can we bring the whole band back to your house? And he was like, fuck yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we ended up staying in a flat with all those guys. It was a bizarre day. And there's some Third Eye Blind, signed Panic at the Disco stuff, my American Hi-Fi stuff. Okay, you're joining an elite crew. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. I think we actually saw the Third Eye Blind guys last year because they came through Asheville, North Carolina, where we live.
One of my favorite bands.
I thought it was funny to me whenever they took the stage because clearly the lead singer, I can't remember his name.
Stephen Jenkins.
Yeah, Stephen Jenkins. He was clearly out of his mind. When he took the stage, like the rest of the band walked out there, they're doing the whole intro thing. They're like, yeah, we're cool with Third Eye Blind. Everybody's into our shit. And then Stephen walks out there and literally just looks like, how the hell did I get here? And he's like walking around in circles on the stage. And some guy who's running monitors for them side stage runs out there like with a guitar and like is spinning him around trying to put the guitar onto him. And he just finally gets the guitar onto him and he just looks down at the guitar like, I think I could do something with this. Yeah. Okay.
It's you and me tonight, baby.
Right. Just so bewildered that like, oh yeah, I just woke up and now I'm the lead singer of a rock band. I guess I'll do this today. Yeah.
Being a fan of Third Eye Blind is reconciling that Stephen Jenkins is actually one of the worst human beings in the world.
Is he really?
But
I know nothing about it.
Lyrically and like just the albums in general, they're just like touchstones for my entire life. But then you meet him and you're like, oh, you're such a dick. But how are you so good? How have you got like a fast pass to my heart and yet you're such a dick?
He's like the first girl you date in college. You're like, everything about you is wrong.
Keeps following you around.
Yeah.
Everything about him as a human being is wrong. He'll sue anyone he's ever worked with. And but you meet him and you're like, you are a dick. But then you listen to the album, you're like, but you're just a lovely one.
But you get me.
Yeah. Speak to me, man. Yeah. There are 2 albums in this entire world which I think were written for me, and one of them is Underclass Hero by Sum 41.
Okay.
And then there's just about 11 different Third Eye Blind songs. Like, you were there, man. How did you know?
They just get you from zero to tears that quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is depressing.
Man, that's amazing.
Carry on.
Hey, so Alex, tell me about what kind of got you into comedy.
So my brother did it.
Okay.
I love my brother. My brother is like who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like I envy him for being like a teenager in 1999. I was 11. But
congrats.
So the American Pie defined my like soundtrack for music and everything, but my brother lived it. And I always wanted to be my brother. Yeah. Again, set the bar really low in life. I want to see that.
Right.
So he did comedy when he was at university, and we went to go see him and support him. And I just loved it. I've always been a chauvinistic pig in that sense. Like when I was born, glitter went out. Just it was a production. And so I've always had this sort of need to be the funny guy.
Okay.
I've always had, like, even before I knew I wanted to be comedy and make people pay for the privilege, I've always wanted to be that funny guy.
Right.
So at school, I was, it's part of the autism in the sense that I don't feel sadness or anxiety or depression, which you think is a superpower until you're like, hey, we're going to a funeral. Like, why is everyone so sad? Look what I can do with my yo-yo.
Right. So everybody's staring at this dead body. It can't yo-yo the way I can.
Yeah. So that was, I've never really understood why people were sad or stuff, but I also felt a need to make them laugh, which is why Robin Williams is a massive part of my, like, development, because obviously you and I grew up roughly the same time. So it's Mrs. Doubtfire. It's just that personality, that need to be the funny one.
Yes.
Which I've related to so much. And so, like, even when I was at school and I was getting bullied, like, I know you're only bullying me because shit's going on at home, but like, hey, do what you got to do because I'm still going to make you laugh at some point today. Like, I really didn't envy, I didn't hate bullies. Like, I got bullied a lot. Yeah. Like, you're trying to be funny? Like, I'll try harder next time. Stop trying to be funny. But I haven't shown you my Christopher Walken yet.
Right.
Wow. So I've always needed to be funny. Like when I was 5, I didn't bring anything in for show and tell. And I would always commit to a bit. And they were like, hey, Alex, what did you bring? And I was like, I bought invisible juggling balls. And let me tell you, they're amazing. And I stood in front of the class and just juggled with invisible juggling balls. And I committed to it. And like, the teacher's like, can you do any tricks? And I was like, thank you, teacher. So I was like, I can juggle between my legs. I can juggle with my eyes shut. And so the class are just like, how could you doing it? Because I really committed to it. Just this need to be the funny one. Even when the joke was long gone, I was like, you want to play with my invisible juggling balls? Like, Alex, we're 30 now, but we know you were kidding. So I don't know why. I always try and find joy in every sad situation, in any situation anyway.
Yeah.
So that just eventually translated to making money out of it, which is always a bonus.
I love that. I love people getting paid to do the things that they love. Sometimes it surprises me how much of an attention span it kind of pulls out of you, because it's like you really do have to have a certain amount of discipline to do that. I found humor as sort of a way out of my circumstance. Not that I'm by any stretch of the imagination like an awesome joke teller, stand-up comedian at all, but like I loved laughing with my brother when we were growing up because our house was so serious. Like, my parents were so serious. They were, I think, probably terrified that they were going to mess us up in some way. And so, like, really, really strict religious household. And it was like, I had this breakthrough moment where I can't remember what it was. My brother and I had gotten into a load of trouble, and we got spanked when we were kids. I don't know if that's like a thing in the UK, but like we certainly did when we were kids. And I remember my parents sent us to our room, and I could hear my dad like walking down the hallway. He would take his belt off and kind of make a loop out of it and like snap it. He would make a snapping sound with his leather belt. Jesus. So you could just like hear him coming. So it was just like, it was pretty terrifying because my dad's a pretty big guy. Like he's bigger than I am. And so he finally got into the room, and I just remember he was like, all right, boys, you know what's got to happen. He was like, and we were like, oh gosh, no. And of course, like we're getting religion really quick because we're like, how could this same God that my parents worship command them to beat us, but then somehow be willing to answer our prayers to make our parents not spank us when we get into trouble? It was confusing. It was a confusing time to be a kid in Protestant America. I just remember leaning over the bed, and I was like, God, give me anything. Just give me anything to get me out of this situation. This is going to hurt so bad. And it's at that moment my dad had his hand up in the air. He was about to bring that belt down on my bare ass, and I just let out this I call it my God-given fart. It was literally like an angel from heaven invaded my intestines and was like, here we go. Whoo, like at my dad. And it stopped him in his tracks completely. He did not know. It was like mind blown. Like, I'm about to beat this kid, and he's sitting here angel farting at me, and I don't know what to do with this. And he just started laughing. And then my brother and I kind of look at each other, and we start slowly, like, awkwardly giggling too. Like, right? Yeah. Oh. And it's like, if your dad can't spank you if he's laughing. So that's
he didn't commit to the blazing saddles and just keep going. No. Just blazing saddles it.
Yeah, so that was a pretty pivotal moment in my life, and now it's like that's kind of how I deal with stressful situations, is trying to find the humor in them. Or if something gets too serious, it's like, it's not that I can't be serious about it or that I can't like make it work or have empathy, you know, for people in this situation, but it's my own way of dealing with it to sort of find what's a little bit fucked up about the situation and kind of poke holes at it. Yeah.
So my comedy brain, like I just try and think of the weirdest things that can happen. So the way you were telling that story, just leaving a moment in between before you went,
yeah.
You said his arm was up there. I thought you were going to say he got caught in the ceiling fan. like the fan looped the belt.
Right.
Like that's what I saw in my head, and then you just went the other way.
Yeah. I was my own hero.
That's how ADHD works.
Oh my God. I love it.
How many times have you told that story out and then said, yeah, I'm going to publish that on the internet?
Yeah. This might be the first time. Maybe I've talked about it before. I mean, you and I know because we're in our 30s. We're repeating stories at this time. We've peaked. Everything we have to say now is okay.
Slight variation on the story as well. Like it's just like when you were young, it's like I hit my shin, and then when you're older, it's like I broke my leg. You embellish it, you add a different detail, and there was a dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
I was hit by a bus,
and Abraham Lincoln was there.
Yeah,
don't that beat
with
all?
His belt up. I was of the belief that Abraham Lincoln had a very tall head when I was growing up because of the hat. I thought that's a very needless hat. But like Americans make fun of the British, like, because our like guards have the giant like furry things on there, the hats outside the Queen's Palace.
Right.
But you guys had a president that was just straight up Trump towering his head. Like, I'm gonna have the biggest hat. I'm gonna have the biggest hat in this world, motherfucker. Just and then someone else did it. There must have been a meeting. There must have been like. That's where I find comedy. That's a great point. I find comedy in the moments before a big decision happens.
Right.
So Abraham Lincoln must have at some point looked at that hat and gone, bigger. Make it bigger.
Right.
And then they get another one, then he's like, whoa, that's too big. Dial it back a bit. Like everything we own in this world is just processed through trial and error. Everything you use is by design.
Right.
We know horses were ridden into battle because they can carry the load. They're good.
Yeah.
But we know that through trial and error, which means I genuinely believe at some point in human history there has been a moment where the cavalry has come over the ridge and it's been alpacas, and it hasn't gone very well. And they're like. They're just having a debrief at the end of the war. They're like, no, not alpacas. Fuck alpacas. We're going to need something bigger. But that's because everything is trial and error. We know this because we know how everything works perfectly because there has been a rubbish version of it beforehand. So Abraham Lincoln had a small hat and he was like, I don't feel big in this. Just make it bigger.
Or that could have been his power play. Like he was like, I want for everyone to stress out when I walk through a doorway and wonder if my hat will make it through the passage.
Yeah. Which means at some point there must have been a door with like that hat just also cut out of the ceiling. So he has to go through it, and then he was like, make the doors bigger too. And that's why everything's bigger in Texas.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Because Abraham Lincoln's hat. But that is how comedy works. Like any historic event in this world, there have been 10 minutes before it where they've all gone, this is a terrible idea, but we're going to do it anyway. Like anything in the world has had a meeting about it. And that's where I try and find comedy in this world.
Oh yeah, because there's the caution signs that they put on shit. It's like somebody had to have messed that up, like with the whole Tide Pod thing that was going on. Clearly, Tide Pods are not food. Yeah. But because someone ate them, now there's huge labels on them, like not food. And it's like, are we? The real issue is that we've raised an entire generation of people that don't know what actual food looks like because they're like, it looks like a gusher, and I've never seen a vegetable in the wild.
I want to put that in my mouth.
Right.
Well, where I live, this is quite British. Do you fly hot air balloons near where you are? Do you see them flying around the sky every now and then?
My sister-in-law loves them. So we go to hot air balloon festivals and
Wow, you live in a sleepy part of the world. We're going to a festival. What's there, Drake? Jay-Z? Nah, balloons.
It's only fun for about half an hour, but you do things for family.
Well, there is a sign in a field where I live that was just like, hey, don't land hot air balloons here, just at the very bottom. Like, first of all, like, don't ruin the park, pick up your litter. Just an added, just a cleaner added one was don't land hot air balloons here with dogs in them, which is just like, can we land hot air balloons in here anyway? Is dogs the emission here? Like, can I? And how am I gonna read this sign until I've already landed? So. They're like that'll be the deterrent we need, a sign on the ground. I would have mown it into the grass. Like, fuck off. Right. If you have a dog.
Oh my gosh. Or it's like, dogs allowed, UFOs, please don't land here. It happened a couple times.
We don't validate.
Right. We don't validate UFOs. Oh my God.
So, but you'll take this into the rest of your life now. You'll look at things and go, why was this designed this way?
Yes.
And then you'll think about all the stupid designs that will have happened before. Like in England, we like our beer pumps, they are, and there's no getting away from this, dick shaped. Okay. It's just what they are. They are just shaped like big dicks. Which means that there was a production line of them, and at no point did anyone go, these are dick-shaped, Steve. Like, oh my God, they are. Put a curve in it. No, that makes it look like a weirder dick. Like, everything is designed and has been green lit that you see in your life. So everything in your room right now, there's had a meeting and they've gone, that's it. That's the one. Yeah. And there's which means there's like at least 3 or 4 other designs that didn't make it. And I want to see those designs of everything.
Maybe
in this
they're
world.
Really functional. Maybe they would have made the world a better place. But I guess we'll never know, because when you think about people having these meetings, I tell this to Jessica all the time. I'm like, there was a writers' meeting and they wrote that line for that show, and that's how bad it was. Like, For instance, one of my favorite ones in the entire history of film and cinema is M. Night Shyamalan put out this movie called Devil. I don't know if you saw it or not. And it was about, basically the whole thing takes place in this elevator. And one of my favorite lines ever, it's just so awkward and off-putting when you hear it. Like they're sitting in the elevator and tensions run high and people are kind of upset. And and
then you fart.
Yeah, no, right, yeah. And then my dad lifts his hand and it gets chopped off in the blade. And this guy gets really upset and he looks at this lady and he goes, "Why don't you suck a butt?" And it's like, okay. Clearly there were no...
It just takes you out.
What happened with the proofreading here? Like how... I'm not even scared anymore.
Takes? Yeah. Especially like... The thing is, you'll see that more and more and more. Like, now I've said it, you'll see it more and more in your life. Like, my God, they went with that. Like, the people who write Big Bang Theory must like go back every season and go, "We're still here. Why?" But let's carry on. Well, that's ending now, isn't it?
I have so many friends that love Big Bang Theory. I stopped after season 1. I've never watched an entire episode of Big Bang Theory. It's not because I think it's not because I think people that watch it are super basic and it's like lowest common denominator of nerd culture. At all. I just never got into it. I don't know why.
So with the Big Bang Theory, it's like a list of like canned laughter. The autistic one says bazinga. It's awkward because nerds and girls coexist. Yeah. And credits. Bare naked ladies.
I love it.
Which annoyed me and Dan. So we're actually on a bit of a quest in our life now because of both of us having autism. He has more severe autism. I just have high functioning ADHD, which means I can't sit still very long. It doesn't really disable me very much, but Dan, he has actual needs in his life.
This interview must be killing you.
Well, I am actually air drumming.
Okay.
Underneath.
Love it. Brilliant.
So Dan consulted on a TV show with Netflix called Atypical.
Yeah.
So, which is about autism, and they just approached him and were like, "Hey, is this right? Is this how are we doing here?
Does this reflect your experience on the planet at all?"
And so it's just like, no, you guys are just putting all of autism in like one dude. You need to spread that load a little bit. Just like have some fun with it. There aren't many positive autistic people in media. Yeah. Like everyone loves our bedroom community is probably the closest that has ever like fully been there.
Right.
But we're just trying to explain, like people like Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, they will have traits that are like with autism. Like even Steve Jobs wearing the same thing every day, which Zuckerberg does. Right. Which is just like taking away a thought process. That is an autistic way of planning out your day. Right. Like, I've got so much going on in my head. I want to remove something from it. So I'm going to do the same thing every day so I don't need to think about it. And so wearing the same clothes is a very, 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 very spectrum thing to do. So we're just trying to change this kind of like, hey, we're not all window lickers who make pop culture references. I am, but not all of us. Some of us need to eat food with our left hand crossed over with our right hand and in the dark, but only on 47% brightness with our screens. So we're just trying to make everything. We're trying to include every aspect of autism, not just like the sidekick stuff. Because there's never been like a straight up like autistic superhero. Like I will fight crime. But my cape is not ironed right. Just like there has to be an autistic superhero at some point. Marvel must do it. They'll just do it because they do all the like undertones, like, oh, did you know Dumbledore was gay? And like all those characters, like writers will come out years later and go, he was gay, like he was actually a squirrel. Like, weren't you paying attention? We want one just to come out and say, I'm autistic. I like all my shit in a row. I will beat you down from height order.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I find so fascinating because it's like I can totally relate to those thoughts that you have where you're like, oh my gosh, my brain is so full. I need to just commit something to process and I don't have to think about it anymore. But I think the thing that makes it so hard for everybody else to relate to is that those behaviors, I think maybe to the rest of the world seem sort of bizarre or compulsive. And then for people that don't struggle with autism, they would see that as being like weird or behavior because they can't relate to it on a personal level. Or for them, if they exhibited that behavior, it would be like, clearly I'm super stressed out, I've had too much caffeine, or I'm coked out, or like whatever. But then it's not like that.
What a day you're having.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
There is almost an essence of like mankind is actually breeding autistic traits into people now by the way we use social media. Like how many peeps do you who wake up and just like check my phone, see my digits, see how many like notifications I got. How many people feel that phantom vibration in their pocket? Like, did I get a message? Did someone like me?
Oh yeah.
Like that compulsion to check your phone and check your stats, check your metrics and all that stuff. Like metrics is not it's not the kids' way of saying like, you see my metrics today. It's how many likes and shares you got, like that sense of affirmation coming from those numbers. But the need to check them, the compulsion to check them, and how we routinely do them is an autistic trait. Like people who do it may not have autism, but the compulsion and the need. And like, if you take like a phone away from a teenager, they just don't know how to exist.
Right. They don't know how to get back to normal because their normal is with the phone. So of course it stresses them out to be like taken away from it. Mm-hmm.
So doing things like that, those are traits that we feel. So people don't like, I don't understand what it's like to be autistic. Oh yeah, give me your phone.
Yeah.
I'm going to open up your like browser history and just watch you sweat.
Yeah.
Like that is how and that's how we feel when you touch my food. That's how we feel. That's how we feel when you don't put the knives and fork in the right drawer, Natalie. Right.
Oh my god!
So it's the easiest way. It's the easiest way to like. So even when I see what I'm doing in the camera now, like where I twist, it's like I'm loading or like dialing in the next thing.
Right.
So I notice this when I do public speaking. I do this when I'm building sentences. I do it on the words. I move my hands as if I'm placing the block of the word in the sentence, quite literally.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing. I didn't notice it for years until someone said, "Why do you do that on the word every time?" And slightly higher, as if I'm building my point the entire time, like an actual, like I am building a wall in front of me between me and life.
Right? Yeah, you're like Doctor Strange. You're like visualizing it and going there. Yeah. I feel like you're the person that builds things with their hands. You're the builder, and then I think the thing that I do, I call the conjurer. I'm constantly like pulling things or creating a spell or like swirling things around. Real Harry Potter shit. It's amazing. It helps me out though, like to feel like there's a physical manifestation of me pulling an idea out of myself in the real world. It makes it feel more possible because I get hung up on sentences.
Just not out of your ass.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah.
You want to see what I can pull out?
I feel like my parents are like, he's been pulling stuff out of his ass since he was born. Yeah.
Literally and the other word. I got dry mouth. I got cotton mouth. See, I play with things on my desk all the time. I have things on my desk that I just
was that a pineapple? What the hell is that?
What kind of fucking pineapples have you seen?
It looks like, from where you were saying, oh, okay. So I thought it was like a sliced pineapple.
It's like a squeezy thing.
So it's like a donut. It's more like a donut.
Yeah, it's a hair donut because my partner and I share this office. She runs like a princess company and I run this half as like this is my inner sanctum, my bat cave kind of thing. And so I just find her hair scrunchies from time to time on my desk, which they shouldn't be at. So when she listens to this, you're dumped.
It's over. And then she just texts back and says, you've never paid rent.
Damn it. How did you know?
She got me.
So, how are we going to get your band to come to my country is my question.
You know,
we need to do another Kickstarter.
I feel like the UK is the one place that we've never been able to play a show. I think we've landed there, like we've done connecting flights or whatever. I think whenever we went to Germany or Sweden or wherever the last few places that we played were. Mm-hmm. But I've always wanted to play. My family is actually originated in Buckinghamshire area.
So you've never been there because that's not how it's pronounced, sir.
Please tell me how it's pronounced. Oh my gosh, I'm learning about my family with you, Alex.
Buckinghamshire.
Buckinghamshire.
There you go. We'll make a Brit out of you.
Everything that I know about UK culture, I learned from Monty Python. So I just assume everyone is so silly. Like
Monty Python's a very good reflection of what my education was like. So I did grow up in Monty Python quite a lot, but my actual school was very eccentric. Where you said earlier, like, I got whipped by my dad with a belt. Yeah. That's how they punished us. I went to a very, very old-fashioned boarding school where the punishment scheme was slightly more imaginative.
This is so stereotypical of what we think about the UK. It's like everyone goes to boarding school. Like everyone spent time at Downton Abbey.
I really did. I went to a very posh boarding school, and the cane had just gone. Like, it had just been taken out of the education, so we're no longer allowed to cane. But all the teachers were like, "I'm gonna cane some bitches." That's not how they said it.
Sorry,
that's not how they said it. But they all wore gowns and caps and stuff. And they had dogs follow them around school. It was very Harry Potter. And if you got something wrong, the teacher would remember it. And when you were doing your homework or your prep or something, they'd hit the table with their cane like so close to your finger, they may as well have just beat you.
What?
And like I didn't touch you, bitch. Like, yeah, but I'm not. I need new underwear. But the actual punishments were eccentric. Like, that was just like them getting like, hey, who's the boss, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Like, the actual punishments, we did a dot system. So if you did something wrong, you got a dot, and one dot represents 10 minutes of a punishment. That can be anything from walking around a tree to they used to put us in a canoe in the school lake for 10 minutes, rain or shine. If you were really bad, you had to sleep in the school's chapel, which was not heated. The clock tower, you may have had to sleep in there if you were really bad. My brother once made a dictionary of swear words with his friend, and that was apparently the worst thing they'd ever seen in their entire lives.
And they called it the dictionary.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They did it in Latin.
Low-hanging fruit. That's amazing. A swear dictionary.
Yeah, so when the teachers found that out, my brother got punished. He was like, you have to sleep in the clock tower where it's haunted. There was always this story of a ghost, like, that just passed down from generation to generation of that school. I'm pretty sure Harry Potter was based there. Fun fact, I auditioned for Harry Potter.
You auditioned for it? You could have been Harry. Well, maybe Neville.
Yeah. Hey, he was the real hero of the story.
Right? He kind of was.
Like, I became Neville. I was like the nerdy kid at school. I was just like, hey, check out these floppy disks I brought to school. One of them's got worms on it. And they were all like, check out my phones. We can play with ringtones and play Snake. And I'm like, I don't have Snake. So they all grew up, and during their late teens, they were like having like sexy times at parties and doing the schmalcohol. But now they're ruined. They're like grapes, and who have just turned into prunes, and who have then turned into raisins, who are now covered in shit. They're just... Sounds
like you exacted your revenge.
Yeah, I did, and I can tell you, I saw one a few years ago. I moved away, but I was working in a holiday park for a while.
Yeah,
and like some people who I used to go to school with came to this holiday park on vacation, and they were like, "Are you Alex Watts?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And like, "Hey, it's me, name," and I was like, "Oh my god, time has ruined you." Like,
time has ruined you.
At the school, he was just like, ladies' man, like, hey, ladies, I've got abs, and look at my hair. But now he's fat and bald. I'm like, your superpowers have gone, bitch. Look at me. I've still got one of them. I've got hair still.
You peaked, so, like, you Sylvester Stegall.
Yeah. Well, it's that theory of, like, people who, like, freeze time and then still live their lives when they unfreeze time. They have aged, but other people around them haven't. It's like that guy did his entire life between like 16 and 21.
And now
by the
it's
time
over.
He pressed play again, he was like, what have I done? Yeah.
What have I done?
So I got to feel that way, because they were like, I'm so jealous of your hair. And I was like, yep. Yeah. I took up smoking again for that moment.
Oh my
I've never smoked I've never touched a drug in my life, but every time I try and do something cool, I have to try and smoke a cigarette, because that's what TV taught me happened.
Right, yeah.
The zingers always come after a cigarette.
Yes.
That's just how it works.
Anytime you need to say something important, you must take a cigarette drag first.
Yeah. That's what the advert said. So your whole existence now is based on that Kickstarter, which was the happiest news I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, when I heard you were doing a Kickstarter, I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And I had, only the week before you announced that, I was like learning Milk the Lightning, because me and my rubbish little 30-something, like, we're still relevant band were just like...
You play guitar?
We learned, yeah, I've got one right next, it's right over there.
Oh, nice.
It's right over there somewhere.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So, it's been in there a while. And we wanted to learn Milk the Lightning and just play some songs. And then I got all my friends into your band, and they were like, why are they still not going? I was like, I don't know. Like, Jesus isn't popular as much. And then, like, you were like, we're launching 11tyseven, something is alive, this podcast. And we were like, it's a podcast. And then like, we're doing a Kickstarter for an album. Like I was happy for the podcast and everything, but I needed new music, and I have done for years. And so when he came out with the Kickstarter, it was the first time I've ever audibly gone, woohoo, just by myself.
I'm so flattered.
Yeah.
That's what it'll say on my tombstone.
I'm flattered.
He made Alex say woohoo.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was in public at the time. Like I think I was on a bus or I was on some form of public transport, and you're like, we're making an album. And I was like, woohoo! Don't look at me.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm so flattered. That's
So what did you like where we said earlier about the sort of the 10-15 minutes before you do something idea, before you press like publish, launch, what was that 10 minutes like? The leading up to it, you were just like, we're either going to crash and burn or we're going to meet our goals.
I think we definitely, we had a lot of conversations about like why we were even starting the band back up, and why for me, it was like, I think I came to this place in my life where I cared less about it. It didn't matter to me. Like I had left the band. I had become a college professor. I had moved on with my life. I was finding other things I was passionate about, all of them pretty music centric, mind you. Yeah. But it's also that there was just something really fun about 11ty7 that I felt like it was sort of this place for people that didn't have a place. It was like music for people that didn't really buy into any one scene or couldn't fit into any one scene. I don't know. And it kind of felt like it was like, I make music for me. Like I make music that I want to listen to, that I want to hear. And like, there's a community building aspect of that. I'm the happiest when I'm writing and producing, not just for me, but for other bands too. Like, and I just loved it, and I wanted to try it again. And there's also like a bunch of interpersonal stuff that was going on with the band at the time. And there's a little while where we just kind of didn't like each other and couldn't figure out how to coexist. And then we all got families and grew up, and it took like a good 2, 3, 4 years for all of that to sort of like settle. Yeah.
So if you hadn't made that amount, were you still going to like, fuck it, we'll do it anyway?
Yeah. We had decided we were going to do it one way or the other, and it was like we only pressed go on it when we knew that we would do it one way or the other. I think we felt very fortunate that people did like it, and it got shared a lot, and that it sort of galvanized this fan base again. But we were also going to do it for us. I think the fan
base was still there. I think there are a lot of people who came back. I think you hit nostalgia for a few people. You've now hit nostalgia status. Well done, you're officially old. But there will have been people out there who were just like, oh my God, MySpace was my jam.
Which is
I want to see what's going on. Yeah, I'd never want to meet anyone who says MySpace is my jam out loud. So you reached that target, and I'm not going to say it was like a lofty target by any stretch, but there must have been a part of you that was just like, should we go that high? Do we go that low? Should we go higher? Like what made it, like, did you do all the maths, or did you go on a feeling of a number? Like, because production wise and like reproduction of like physical units, did you have like a target or units? Like, we can only afford X amount to print, so we can only set our target this high. If we sell more, are we going to bankrupt ourselves from the Kickstarter?
Yeah, see, that's
like, how did you work it out? That's
interesting, because that's a super businessy question.
Yeah,
but it's one that every band has to like go through. I don't think people like realize it's like for even for just small like indie touring bands that maybe are doing a really great job for themselves. Like blowing $2,500 to press vinyl, not knowing whether or not you're going to like sell all of them or not.
Or send a guy in England 2 different versions of them.
Or do that. It's like, I think that we just said, hey, we're going to put it out there, and we're going to make the record. And so that's why what we didn't want, one of the things that I kind of hate, it's one of my pet peeves, and everybody's got different ways and reasons for doing it this way. Like I hate it whenever bands get on Kickstarter and they're like, we're ready to make a record, but man, we can't lift a finger unless you guys help us out. And I'm like, that's the shittiest thing ever. Like the shittiest call to action I can think of. Like, if you really want us to make music, you're going to have to pry our ass off this couch And I just hate that approach to it. So I was like, what can we do that's different? Well, what we can do is say, with or without you, we're going to make the record because we want it to exist in the world. And it makes us happy. And if you want to experience our happiness with us and like us grow this community together, help us do some cool stuff for the release. And so everything we wanted to do, pressing CDs, pressing vinyl, you know, like new merch, like all this stuff, like we just kept doing it incrementally as we saw money coming in. So as soon as, because we feel like that's the way to give back to fans as well. It's like, if you help us make this thing bigger, we have more things to offer you. Like, I feel like that's more of a friendly sort of quid pro quo way of looking at it than just being like, well, I guess we'll make some new songs since our artistry is so damn important to the world. And you all
so
know
you were
that.
just like, we're going to do this. You can give us some money or not, but we're going to do it anyway.
Right.
You're not just like, look, here's some songs, but there we go again. Fuck it. I'm not moving until you give me 10 grand.
Right. Right.
Yeah, like you have to pay me now.
Yeah, I'm holding my own art hostage. Like, why?
So you were like more or less. Had you written was the album like more or less ready when you pressed play, or were you just like, we need to press play now because we're gonna do it? Were you jamming, making some songs, and then like, this is an album, or were you like, we're gonna make an album?
Well,
let's do this Kickstarter.
That's the weird thing. Whenever we launched the 11tyseven is Alive website and told everybody we were doing the podcast, we had a lot of a record sort of done, and we were thinking, cool, it'll take us 3 months because we both had jobs, and I was like, yeah, so let's just do this whenever we can, and 3 months is definitely enough time for us to finish this out. And then it turned into no, it's actually gonna, because the songs kept kind of reworking themselves and reinventing themselves. I've got like a lot of people write a ton of songs. They'll bring like 40 of them into the studio, and I'll write maybe 15 of them, but all 15 of those songs will go through 3 or 4 different versions before I fit them into like the best packaging for that song, or what I think is the best packaging. That's all,
At what point did you realize like, oh shit, we're gonna meet that target? We're gonna have to do this.
I think within the first few days, because we just kind of saw that it was like headed on a really cool trajectory, and we were like, well, if it makes it, awesome. If not, we're out a lot of cash.
So yeah, well, you hit that hornet's nest of fans who are just buzzing. My God, I didn't realize that pun was going to make itself. But sorry. Sometimes a happy accident. I was a happy accident. My mum called me a surprise child on my 18th birthday.
Oh,
Thanks,
that's
Mum.
amazing. Now you know the truth.
Yeah. I don't live with her anymore. We don't speak. No, I love my mother.
She did send you to boarding school.
That's why. Go. He keeps coming back. He's like a boomerang. No. Okay. So, like, there was this whole moment where I was like looking at your Kickstarter and thinking, I was looking at my account at the time. I was like, I want this to happen now. Like, so I called Dan up and I spoke to you, and I was like,
yeah.
If we just give you all of the money in the world, can we just have everything? I don't care. Just make your fucking album. And I was just like, can we have the plaque and stuff? And did you make any Kickstarter goals? Like, you did the keyboard as well. I think was it the keyboard you put up?
Oh yeah, it was a synthesizer.
As a goal? Yeah. Like, did you think no one's gonna fucking buy this? And then you're like, someone did. And you're like, shit, that was my favorite one. Yeah.
It was actually some one of the promoters that used to bring us in for a whole bunch of shows. Yeah. I think her husband works for Coca-Cola, and he used to nerd out on synthesizers when he was younger, and she got it for him as like as an anniversary gift or birthday gift or something. I can't remember. Could not have gone to nicer people. But I also, there's too many synthesizers in the studio. So I was like, I could probably let one go.
So when you launched it, were you still in contact with these people, or did you like get old people that you used to work with coming back, like back you, like with money, but like emotionally, they were like, fuck yeah, do it. Like, did you get in touch with people again out of it? Yeah,
I mean, I think we definitely did. I think the weird thing about it, actually, that's a really good question, because that's one of the things we missed about it was we have this worldwide community of people we've met all over the planet who 11tyseven, if it's nothing else, is just an excuse for us to get a text from them or to get a call or a Facebook message or something. And there's something really beautiful about that I love. I love feeling that connectedness and that sort of community element to it. Yeah. Where was I going with
that? People who used to work with coming back and like just giving you a nod from back in the day? Like, what are you doing? Congratulations. Did Hawk Nelson give you a call?
Hawk Nelson has never given a shit about our band.
I know.
Yeah, well, like that was the other thing too, is like we've been pretty open about this, like we sort of fell into the Christian music market and world, and have at times come out and spoken very loudly about some of the things that we think are unjust or unfair about it. But I think the thing that's helped us out a lot is that conversation is turning into something a lot bigger. Like we were kind of like, we've only ever talked with each other about what happened in that industry and what our personal experience was. And it's like every band that's ever been through it has kind of a horror story. And that's the music industry at large. I'm not saying that's like, specifically with Christian music, but we're also kind of going through a lot of questions about our faith. We're like, do we believe in this thing? Do we believe in the same thing that everyone's singing about? Do we believe in the same thing that everyone is monetizing right now? Is this a brand of Christianity or literally of faith in general that we want to dedicate our lives to or that we believe in? The answer has been like, it's complicated and we're on a journey. And whatever the Christian music industry is or was, kind of not interested in being a part of it anymore. So like we had a lot of our contacts that were tied up in that industry. Yeah. And it's like, and some of them don't want to have anything to do with us anymore because we don't toe the party line. They can't bring us in for a festival and us be like, every head bowed, every eye closed, and just got to give your heart and soul to Jesus. That means something completely different to every culture that you would ever say those words in. It's like, yeah. So anyway, if you've listened to any of the 11ty Life podcasts, we kind of get into this, but we're in a journey. Like we're not trying to be all negative about it. We're trying to poke holes where there need to be holes. And we're trying to do the whole comedy thing kind of where it's like, we can find the humor in this because I feel like there's truth in how funny and weird it is. Like, yeah.
It's another reason I think you come back to being, I think, both a legacy band and almost graduated from nostalgia in my mind and become legacy because you haven't changed. You've always had this frenetic melee of noise that is just an 11ty7 song.
I'm writing that down. Frenetic melee of noise.
which I love because you can just pick a line. I'm going to follow the synth in this song. I'm going to follow the bass in this song, and I've always loved it about the band, and which is one of the reasons I've stayed an 11ty7 fan for whenever the hell MySpace came out on MySpace. Which what year was that?
2005? Was it?
2005. Like I have been on your D since like 2005. Like there are not many relationships I've had in my life, like friends and like have just come and gone in that time. But 11ty7 is my one constant.
Oh, you're so sweet.
But like that's right. I was going to be really rude, but I won't. So with 11ty7 just doing all this and coming back, like your fan base has just. As much as you woke them up and stuff, I think you really brought them back together through the podcast. Was the podcast like the idea, like we'll give them the tip through the podcast and then launch? Or did you go, we'll do launch and then podcast? Like, there must have been some kind of, which one do we do first?
I think it was always sort of changing. Like when we first started the podcast, it was because we wanted, first of all, content to give fans that were looking forward to a new record. And then we also wanted to have these conversations where we explored what our journey was through the Christian music industry and sort of not just all of a sudden come out and like surprise everyone.
Remember us?
Yeah, like, oh yes, we're atheists, by the way, and you never saw it coming.
God who?
Right. Never heard of him. I thought the conversation was bigger than that, was more important than that. At least for us, it was. And so I wanted people to feel like they could be a part of whatever search that we were starting to go on and whatever this unpacking of our experiences was together. And it was also a way for us to like tour without touring. So, because we can't just like get in a van and do 200 dates a year anymore. Like it's not going to work for.
Not with that attitude.
Yeah, not with that attitude. Gosh, Matt.
So like with that podcast though, there must have been a discussion like, who the fuck's going to listen to this? Which leads me to believe you must have been using some kind of social tool to like, that's what I'm going to call my name now. I am a social tool. Like you must have been looking up who's chit-chatting about 11tyseven, who's hashtagging, who's listening, because the age of Spotify and social media, there's hashtags, now listening, blah, 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 blah. Was there a moment where you thought, hey, no one's going to remember 11tyseven, and then you just go through some kind of app where like, oh my God, people are still listening, numbers are still appearing, let's do a podcast. Like, because it's such a public way to bring back your story, you must have believed that there was a public you were still engaged with, or that was still out there that you hadn't yet engaged with because of how much people were tagging you, maybe saying, now listening to 11tyseven. Were you like, man, they're still out there. Can we tell this story publicly?
Yeah.
Does it matter now?
I think that's a really romanticized way of looking at it, but yeah, I'll adopt that as the as the actual thing behind it. It was just,
do you want to make a podcast? Yeah,
it was just that we wanted to have the conversation, and we were kind of doing it for us. Like, I'd love to say, like, hey, we're just trying to give the fans what they want. And a lot of times that is sort of the case.
Why is everyone from Brooklyn?
I know. I have this like gangster, like mobster kind of guy that I default to. It's that or this like homeless Pittsburgh guy.
I want that gangster to have an album.
Yeah?
Put that on Kickstarter. Yeah. I'll fund it now.
Brooklyn
MySpace.
MySpace. Oh yeah, that's actually a little bit Cockney. By the way, Michael Caine. Yeah. Lovely.
All right, governor.
Yeah.
You all right, governor? How you doing there, pal? You know what I mean? Apple and pears, do you know what I mean?
You do it so well.
You'd think I was from there.
Yeah.
So you got to pop your head like a pigeon whenever you're doing it. All right, as you go, bruv. You know what I mean? Michael Caine doesn't do it because the camera's always face onto him, but it's always slightly side on. All right, bruv, how you doing? Like you're listening to music. That's how Cockney works. You can't do it properly unless you are cocking.
You've got to be vibing. You have to be vibing.
Yeah.
That's it.
To that beat.
Love it.
That's how Cockney works. But like Cockney rhyming slang, have you ever done it?
No. What is this? What is this thing?
So dog and bone. Yeah, I'm going to call you up on the old dog and bone, which is phone. Everything rhymes. So if you were to like, I'm going to get on the dog and bone and order a Ruby Murray, you're saying, I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to order a curry.
What?
It is a whole double Dutch. The Cockney rhyming slang is a fascinating thing. So apple and pears is stairs. Like, yeah, I can see the look in your eye. You're just like, Google.
Yeah, my tiny American mind is so blown right now.
I want to think it was because we didn't want anyone listening in on our conversations. Like back in the day when it was people like concerned about the Nazis. We're like, we need a way of making sure people don't know we're having a curry. Ruby Murray, that'll do. But again, it's an agreed upon meeting, which means there's an agreed upon word, which means there had to be a meeting where everyone in the Cockney area, everyone from South, East, West and North London, we got together and we're like, yeah, this is now the language. Learn it. Because you can go anywhere and they all know the same thing, which means there had to have been some kind of trial and error.
Yes.
So the Cockney rhyming slang, so like dog and bone is phone. Yeah. Which means there had to be another rhyming way of doing it. They were like, Steve, no, don't be a twat.
Also, I should tell you this from one human to another, all band stuff and comedy aside. I secretly, it's not secret anymore. I'm about to admit to it. I kind of love your your vulgarity on social media.
Like mine in general, or just British people?
Well, yeah, I mean British people in general. Yours specifically because I'm exposed to it on the 11ty Twitter. You always post the funniest stuff.
I've just got what you meant. That was the mouth sex tweet, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's so offensive that you can't help but love it.
The whole thing about it is like Britain is like you grew up like you said God's name in vain. Like
right
where I grew up above a pub. Like my family owned a pub and we lived above it. So like my nursery rhymes.
It sounds like you grew up in a sitcom, songs. Alex. Your family owned a pub and you lived above it. Yeah, like his family owned a pub and he lived above it. Family's downstairs pouring some beer. That's your theme song.
Guitar solo. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you because I can't pay attention.
Yeah, that would actually be lovely, but we don't do that kind of American. It would be a very cold intro for British sitcoms for that.
Okay.
But like we lived above a pub, the rugby team, which you call gobbledygook. It was just there, so they were always singing and chanting all their sweary songs. So like my dad and like my parents in general just desensitized me to swearing. Like my mum still clips me around the ear if I say bitch around her.
Right.
But like I don't call my mum a bitch, otherwise I could just feel her shadow just dawn across the door.
The cane comes down close to your fingers.
But it wouldn't be a cane, it would just be like a wooden spoon from baking. Just
From baking.
No cake for you, fat boy. So like swearing just did not have a thing on me. And I think I was more an extreme case of that because all my friends were like, you swore in front of your parents.
Right.
But they swore as well. Like it just didn't have the impact. Like swearing in England is so not a problem.
It's so watered down. You guys do it so often.
Yeah, like the C word. I'm not going to say it because it's your podcast. But like, depending on your inflection, it can mean you're my best friend or I'm going to stab you.
Yes. Yes.
Like it's just how you deliver it. It is all in the tonality, which is why British kind of just personalities in general are able to look at your best friend in the entire world and just call him that.
Yes.
And he's like, I love you.
I love you too,
but
man.
Because we can't say that, like, no, you are.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting. So like Davey and I kind of have this rule of thumb where we were like, eventually over time, as we kept getting more comfortable with the conversation, the 11ty Life podcast started getting a lot of explicit ratings. And so... And it was because we were just like, we found that when we were not trying to filter ourselves, we were happier with what we had to say. And the conversations got more interesting. But we do kind of have this one rule where it's like, words are not swearing, but intention is. So if your intention behind saying something is to malign or to hurt someone or to set yourself above someone, or it's hate speech in some way, like... then that's what actual swearing is. The words only have the power that you give them. It's when they're used in a derogatory way to tear somebody down or to break apart the beauty of the human molecule.
Unless they proper are one.
Right. Yes.
And they know it. But the whole thing on swearing, though, like when you do public speaking... you can't and when you do radio, when you do TV, when you do live show, umming and erring is just like, no.
Yeah.
So what I do is I say and shit or and fuck or like fucking with an N and a comma.
Yeah, make it country.
Like it's how I'm trying to string the sentences together because umming and erring is a no-no. Like that the umming and erring is more of a no-no than saying shit. Like,
in public speaking, yeah.
So like your inability to string your sentences together is considered a weakness, and they will prey upon you. So if you're trying to load another thought, you fill it with, and so fucking, and then you hit the next sentence, you hit the next beat.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking at the audience and going fuck you, and I find any comedian who uses the swear word as their punchline and not part of a smarter punchline to be pointless. Like any comedian who goes, yeah, and so you're like that's not a funny joke. Like it's just
right. It's awkward.
You're just swearing.
Right.
You're just swearing.
Yeah.
And so as much as the British swear a lot, and we swear a lot.
You're really good at it. You've had a lot of practice.
But it is. We're really good at it. But a no-no, I think it's British comedians especially, we try and not use swearing as the joke. We can't help it as part of our vernacular. We've been raised differently.
Right.
But I will never use a swear word as the means to buy a laugh. That's not currency to me.
Right.
Which is where my moral line is.
It's so weird talking to somebody that lives so far away, because I feel like so much of our lives are influenced by like UK culture. Like I'm a huge Ricky Gervais fan. I don't know what people in the UK think about him, national treasure or not. I don't know.
He's a national treasure, but like he's like the one they don't talk about as much. Like it's hard to explain why.
Can I try to explain why? Because I think I know why.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that there's I've seen this thing sort of happen where I was a big fan of The Office. I was a huge fan of Extras. I thought that show was like one of the smartest shows I'd ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I think that he's just insanely talented and gifted in communicating, expressing really powerful ideas and doing it in a really funny way. poking fun at the establishment, like all these things. I could go on for days about Ricky Gervais. The thing that is most disappointing is that I can't remember what it was. Is I normally don't sit around watching comedy specials on Netflix, but I saw that he had a new one, and his whole new comedy special on Netflix was pretty much just him walking around on stage being like, I'm rich. I don't have to put up with your shit anymore. Also, I make a lot of money. And also, I'm rich. Oh, and by the way, I can afford things you can't. And life is funny to me because I'm so rich. I don't know why I did all of that in like a really poor British accent, but I did, and I
want that as a ringtone.
I'm not going back and deleting it. I'm going to sit in the awkwardness that I just created in the universe, and so are you, Alex.
And that's how Ricky Gervais believes his comedy works. He'll create awkward so everyone else has to sit in it. The thing about Ricky Gervais is that he's so good, he's so British that he's almost anti-British in the sense that he keeps deconstructing everything we are, and we're like, and then building up a new thing of what he reinvents comedy a little bit at times, like The Office. Just no one saw coming. No one saw the success of The Office coming. But because he tapped into actual office workers in a way that I don't think any show had really done before. I mean, you guys had like the movie Office Space, which was dramatized, and just you guys had just movie. We all had movies and TV shows.
It's pretty American though. Like that Office Space is a pretty American concept.
But nobody had done the no theme tune, no nothing, cold open into a paper company in a town no one's heard of in London, how those people live. Like, that was so like, oh my God, I know every person in this room. Yeah. Like, everyone wants to believe they would be Ross or Rachel or Phoebe, or like that's so me. But no, really, you're Tim from The Office. Like, that's, I don't know. Did they keep the same names? Like, he was so good at keeping, I don't know, it was like just shredding away all of TV, all of the glitz, the glamour, the Hollywood, the everything. It's all top-down lighting. And it's like, this is how an office really is. And it's like, oh my God, it's like I work there. And it went to America, and you guys jumped the shark with it, because the first few series, I think the first few episodes were just word for word remakes. Yeah. But you guys jumped the shark a little bit when Steve Carell really got the reins of it. So, but I think probably just before the parkour episode. Yes. Like, I think at that point it stopped being almost a mockumentary about working in an office, and it became a comedy set in an office. Right. Yeah. And we blame Ricky Gervais for most of that because we get it. We get the American version to our TV, and it's like, this isn't British. Yeah. No one would walk around. No one will make eye contact. So what else is it about the show that it's like it's quintessentially not British that we love? Because we love the awkwardness of it. We love the transparency of characters like Michael Scott. Because you never wonder. The Office put him on that level. It put him in God tier straight away. Yeah, and like, this is him. And then other things he did that just couldn't quite, like, Ricky, stop trying so hard, just keep it like just in an office. Yeah, just it's hard to explain Ricky Gervais because he keeps doing different things, and his delivery in stand-up specials is and it grates on you, but it is very British in the sense that we just go, yeah, we just do things, we are just better than you. Is this like a cultural thing where it's like, I kind of have a hard time because I can't relate to a worldview? Yes and no, that's the thing. It's what he's being dickish about. Like, you can be a dick and be the best comedian in the entire world, the best person. Ricky Gervais can be a dick and be amazing. But when he's being a dick just to be a dick, we're like, Ricky, no. Right. Okay. So he got in for The Office, and then he keeps just going from God tier to just larger than life, like, up and down. Yeah. We all want to root for him. And then you have people like Edgar Wright, who made like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Oh my gosh. And Scott Pilgrim versus the World, that's why he will always be better than Ricky Gervais for me, because I'm a film guy. Yeah. Like, I see my life in transitions and in stuff, and Edgar Wright just tapped into my soul, the way he makes films and the way he got Simon Pegg and Nick Frost to be. Oh my God. But again, quintessentially British action heroes, because we were playing on that whole like Die Hard, like John McClane. They are definitely sort of God status here in the States, at least amongst me and my nerdy friends. It's like Hot Fuzz,
Shaun of the Dead, it's like those are always movies that it doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter if you just got home from a funeral, somebody had a kid, whatever. It doesn't matter if we're all sitting around and we can't think of anything to talk about. That movie, we can put that in and it works.
It's little things Edgar Wright does that tap into a thing that's quintessentially British in the sense that when they're sort of channel flicking, there's zombie things happening and they're channel flicking, every sentence or every word being said as they cross is making a sentence.
Yeah.
So it's like there's panic in the streets of London, zombies aim for the head.
Right.
It's being said as he's channel flicking. And that went over so many people's heads. It wasn't until like 50 Reasons You Should Love Shaun of the Dead movie started coming out on YouTube that people were like, oh my God. But anyone in England was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Or like it's just consistently brilliant.
Right.
And it is a movie you can rewatch, and which is why I always prefer Edgar Wright over Ricky Gervais, who frankly needs to decide whether he's going to be a god or an anti-god. He needs to decide.
Well,
like,
and we'll wait with bated breath.
I've seen him once. I've seen him once, and it was brilliant. And you walk out there going, yes! And then you see another one, and you go, damn it.
Oh, yeah. The whole thing, the whole idea of like killing your idols, like everyone disappoints you at some point. To transcend your idols, you must murder them. Kind of mentality.
I mean, I'm not going to call you my idol, but I am disappointed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like you have such a wonderful grasp of nuanced
surreal.
Snark. Yeah, it's a surreal grasp of snark.
Which is why 11tyseven is my soundtrack to all of that. So you kind of shot yourself in the foot there. So I'm going to run a separate Kickstarter to get your album remade with my fucking name on it. As one of your wealthiest backers, I made it rain on your band.
You did.
And what did I get? Forgotten.
You did. You made it rain so hard on our band, and then we literally spent all of it shipping you all the shit that you ordered.
That's how subtle I am in your life. Well, if you had done it correctly the first time, this wouldn't have happened.
I know. Well, I will say this: you have a glowing recommendation from me, and anything that we do in the future, I promise we will make it so awkward with how we draw attention to you being a part of it. You've gotten yourself in over your head.
We'll call it even if you cover that Moana song I told you to in 11tyseven style. Because honestly, the missus can't fucking hear it. She's like, I'm going to listen to this song. And then she goes, I've been sitting at the edge of the water. And then it's not the Moana song. She's like, oh, damn it. Damn it.
Okay.
But so that swell up. But I have one final question for you.
Okay.
One, and then I'll let you go home and put your shirt back on. They can't see what you're doing.
They can't. No one can see. It's been a sexier conversation than you all thought.
That whole... We're actually in the same room. I flew out for this.
Right.
That was my real Kickstarter reward. No, the track listing was lovely. I love the order of the album. I love the flow of the album. On every album I've ever worked on, I've worked in music. You may not know this.
Of course.
There is a moment on an album that is quintessentially my favorite that I've ever worked on, or even albums that I genuinely love that I listen to and I go, oh, even if it's just a drop of everything going down before it kicks back in. Like there is a moment on an album that I love and becomes definitive. On Rad Science.
Okay.
What is that? What is that moment for you?
Okay. I thought you were going to tell me what yours was.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh, okay.
It lines up. Because we have the same hair.
We do have the same hair. Yeah, and mine got pretty long. I was ponytailing for a little while. So I think my favorite moment on, maybe it's twice. One of them would be I was just so happy with how Microchip turned out. Because I just did the solo button episode on it for the podcast and kind of broke down what it was. And as I was listening,
I love spoiler. I love solo. Do it for every song on the album.
Oh, okay.
Do it.
Yeah, and I loved it. I love the message of that song because I still believe it. And there's some times where I feel like if there is a reason that people still keep coming back to 11ty, I think it's that we're trying really hard to grow up with everyone, but then not grow up at all. So it's like, sometimes we say things that aren't right. Sometimes we talk about things that we don't believe anymore, express ideas that we don't think that way anymore because we're growing, because we're learning. That's like reflective of the human experience. Like you don't see the world the same way you do now as you did when you were 20. Like And I think there's something really magical about that and something kind of fun to share that with everyone. So yeah, like I think Microchip as a whole is like kind of one of my faves, but my favorite musical moment is hands down this whenever the guitar comes in the bridge of Kick the Habit. Just feels so dark and weird and kind of just
like I want to dim the lights with that song.
Yeah, like kind of takes me somewhere, and wherever it takes me, I like visiting there. It's the best way of describing that.
That's on a unicorn.
On a unicorn, yes. But it's a demon unicorn riding through the gates of hell. That's what it feels like to me.
Interesting movie. I'd like to see someone animate it. No, I'm stuck on that now. I can't stop seeing it.
You're just replaying scenes from Fantasia in your mind over and over again.
Yeah. Oh, what a great movie.
Yeah.
My favorite moment on that album, and I think the moment that I was like, this might actually stay in top 5 forever, came late in the album.
Okay.
And it's on Hourglass.
Oh, wow.
And it's where everything drops and you come into that scream, just that shout.
Yeah.
And like the intro, I love. I like as much as I'm a happy human person. Like I find it's difficult to emote sadness and anything.
Yeah.
At the same time, I do process struggle. So the opening to that song, I was like, oh yeah, speak to me, and just that like when the shout kicks in my head, for me it's an internal scream in my head because of how frustrated I get with like some of the stuff that's going on because I move at such a quick pace and sometimes not everything works out the way I was supposed to work. Just that shout is just like what I hear in my head a lot, and just that song in general. The melody's lovely. I love it to pieces. I look forward to the solo button on that one. But it came late in the album. I was like, oh my god, I spent so much money on this. Please be good. I'm kidding.
Man, that's first of all, it's very kind of you to notice. I was like, that's hands down probably one of the saddest songs that I've ever written. I remember pretty much the whole time, especially when I was tracking vocals for that song, I was just super bummed, and I was like just running back and forth, like because our studio was in an attic at the time and it had a small porch on the outside of it, and so I was literally like drinking and chain smoking for 2 days just to finish the lyrics on that album. And by the end of it, I was so beaten down and was so tired of thinking about what the song was about and so tired of reliving the words over and over again that I was just like, and I had no voice because I had smoked it all away. And that scream is literally just like me having nothing left. And I thought, well, maybe that kind of fits.
So I pertained that song to, I think you liked a tweet. I almost quoted that in as well. Like watching my friend Dan just grow as a YouTuber and become world famous, and people are like waiting outside our hotel rooms and finding out where we're landing and stuff to meet him. Yeah. Like it was just this moment, like I was flying back from a function, and I was just like in this weird state of mind where I was just like, I am a passenger in this guy's life, despite actually being quite a massive part of his ability to do it, because he needs me to do his thing, and then I get to go on him and his thing and watch him be famous now. Yeah. It wasn't a jealousy thing. It was just this realization that like we've known each other for 10 years and he's just gone and taken me with him instead of us building this together. We have in a little way behind the scenes, but publicly I'm just his bitch. So it's just when I'm sat on an airplane going home and I'm just like, okay, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Yeah. Like that, it's a come down song for me. It really hit me like as a come down coming back from, again, a huge moment I got to experience with my other career. And I was just coming down from it. And I was like, thank you for everything. Why? Why do you still keep bringing me on these things? Yeah. That's why that song hit me on a plane coming home. Other than that, it's Wish Myself Away. That's a great song. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That was really personal, Alex. I appreciate it. That'll be $300. That'll be $300. Oh my gosh. But that's why this record, and I think a lot of people may have looked at this tier on the Kickstarter and gone, fuck, I wish I could do that. So I almost feel responsible in a little way for all the kids who are going to listen to it. Not the kids, we're fucking 30 odd now. Like all the people who are going to listen to this as like the guy who bought that thing. I think it's just because they all have questions they all wanted to ask, and I'm sure, hopefully we've covered like, what's your favorite moment? What was it like doing Kickstarter? Blah, 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 blah. But also delving a little bit deeper. But like from me, and this is what I spend that money on. I want to say to your face on my computer screen right now, thanks, man. Like these records since 2005 have been like integral to the DNA of my evolution.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I have changed. Like I don't think it's hyperbole to say my progression in life has changed by your music, purely because I once told a girl, and this was actually a massive worry for me when you decided to do a Kickstarter and I started sharing it on my Facebook and stuff, because I lied to a girl when I was 17 and said I wrote one of your songs to try and chat her up.
Right.
And I was like, if I share this, is she going to listen to that band and realize I lied to her 15 years ago? Your band helped me get laid without really realizing it.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
So if I had a baby.
Was that boner worth $300?
No. But like, I'm sure it was. It genuinely was. It was. He was a good guy.
I love it.
What did you assume? No, so like 11tyseven has been a part of my life since 2005. I have found a song of yours to like soundtrack it, grow with it, evolve with it every year of my life since then. What are we at? 2018? So you can go fucking ages. That's like pushing like most, like I work with people now because I work in children's education.
Yeah.
Like there are people who have not been alive when your band started, and yet you've been a constant in mine, which is always a weird thing to do. So when they ask me what music I listen to, and I'm like, oh, I listen to 11tyseven, and they're like, who that? And like, first of all, it's who is that? And get it right, Timmy.
You're just being silly.
Get my belt. I don't wear a belt. I also don't wear underwear, so running that risk I cannot take by taking off my belt.
There you go. You cannot gamble and lose with the no underwear policy.
So with 11tyseven being a massive part of my life, it's just thanks for doing this. Thanks for doing this podcast. Thanks for doing this album, because I now get an album to go into my adulthood and my 30s with. Like just holding out hit me. When you released it, I was in a cellar changing a barrel, and I just took an extra 5 minutes to listen to that song, and I hated that time. And I was like, oh my God, stop hitting me when I need it. It's like you're that cigarette. I don't smoke, but I keep referring to smoking.
Right.
Maybe I should start. Like you keep hitting me in my life when I need a fix.
Oh.
Like that is what it's like you get back together like, fuck it. We should make an album. We should make an album again, because there's a guy in England who needs this jam right now. And again, I'm fucking 30 years old.
Wow.
Being hit by a song still, and still being able to appreciate music and feel like it's written for me. Like Underclass Hero was me in 2007, just like word for word.
Yeah.
But then this record came out, and it's about a duality between your young self and your adulthood, and that kind of just trying to stay young but also grow up at the same time in this weird world. That is exactly what it's like being me, because I'm permanently stuck in this world where I have to log on to Facebook and go, look at my new kitchen, look at my new car, look at my new stuff, look at me adulting.
Right.
And that's why 11tyseven will always be my fort rock.
Wow.
Pillow fort rock.
I don't even know what to say. You have expressed such beautiful sentiments that I feel very unworthy of. I don't even know how the hell you heard about our band in the first place, all the way in the UK.
I know exactly the moment I heard MySpace, actually. That's a fantastic point. I heard MySpace on, I think it was like, we had a TV channel called P-Rock in the UK, and it featured like unsigned bands. The channel lasted about 47 minutes because of funding, but they showed some great bands, and like MySpace came on, and like my brother was like, "Is that a new Blink-182 song?" And like turning away from his 87-inch monitor, not wide, deep, because it was 2005.
Right. With tubes in it.
Is that a new Blink? Because it was and it was like, oh, it's just one of those clones.
Yeah.
I was like, no, man, I love it. So I was like, MySpace. What the fuck is MySpace? So that's how I found MySpace.
Wow.
As well. Your band and MySpace in the same day.
I'm so sorry I introduced you to that platform.
Yeah, like therapy bills will run you a little bit. That's why I got a degree, to deal with the fact you came into my life.
I owe you all the college that you're still paid.
Again, we went over this stuff. I don't. There's no bill for that one.
That's awesome.
I just owe a job. But yeah, so I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, you what?
I've enjoyed this.
I have too. I know you've probably got some things to get to. Let me make sure this is still recording. Okay, yeah, we're still good.
Probably.
One of the things I really like is you're making your desk items become conjugal. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go,
consensual.
like I always am interested in what people have to say to this question I like asking, which is, have you ever been in love?
Well, the other side of this door will be someone who'll hopefully hope I say one word.
Yeah.
Never. No, I have. Help.
Get me out of here.
She's locked the door. No, yeah, I have been. Still am. Like, but again, it's the definition of love. Like, I love music. I love TV. I love stuff. I love things. But being in love, being like so deeply in love with the thing where you're like, I want to wake up and look at that thing forever. And it's like, I think it hits you a few times. It hits you a few times in your life. Like, I actually mentioned this earlier on my Facebook that, like, I made Nat wake up with a smile on her face this morning because I drew one on it. So,
Oh my God! Oh,
yeah,
that's so
that's
good.
love. I think love is the full embodiment of how disarmed you can be in front of someone.
Wow, I love that answer.
Yeah.
That's so good, Alex. That's such a fun
I
answer.
know. That's why I get paid to say things with my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you think love comes from?
Well, the realist in me knows it as a chemical reaction.
I thought you were going to say the realist in me thinks probably Ricky Gervais, but because
it depends how much
comes
money
and
you
goes.
got. Yeah, like many people's fathers. I'll see you later.
Right.
Love, I think like love. It depends on like I have friends who I love.
Yeah.
But if you're defining it in like a all round rather than just a partner thing, because I still think relationships are almost unnatural in a way.
Okay.
Because we are designed as animals to eat, sleep, and fuck. That's it. That's what we do.
Sure.
The concept of marriage is alien to me. Don't tell her I said that. But I think it's this moment where like we all are creatures in this world who are trying to struggle to find a meaning. Like why is the sky blue? Why do we thing? Why are we? Why are this? Why is this beer pump shaped like a dick? Why is this horse better at riding than an alpaca?
Right.
Why all these questions we have dissolve when you meet someone who may not necessarily be the answer to those questions, but can shut your mind off from like trying to find meaning.
Yeah.
Because you just have this ball of atoms and carbon that has happened purely by chance on a rock spinning through infinite space.
Yeah.
Going around the sun, which will soon stop being. Soon, I mean, the grand scheme of the universe will soon stop being. But at this moment in time, I look at this person and go, fuck, I love this person. I want to hang around with this person.
Right.
Like, you stop asking questions to the universe, you stop trying to find affirmation because it's there.
Yeah.
It's why we write songs. It's why we try and find big words to explain things, because we don't know anything about the world. And although there are so many questions about why are you here, it then doesn't matter. You just simply are. I simply am. We shall simply be.
It sounds like a verse from scripture or something. You simply are, I simply am, we simply be.
We shall yeah. You go with that. I assumed it'd be like a mid-90s R&B. Like that's simply be.
Right, with that smacky dry snare just
Yeah, exactly. Christ, let's work on that. But love is subjective. Love is stupid. Love is confusing. Love is unnatural. But love is, and that's all it is.
I love it.
And when you can be with someone and fart in front of them,
that is
someone who
love.
gets all your quirks. If you like, again, the autism in me, like I have traits that she must look at and go, "What the fuck?
Yeah,
why?" in her head, but she's just like, "No, we'll figure it out."
right, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Someone who puts up. Yeah. But I'm gonna stick with simply be.
I love that. Alex, I've had the best time with you. I feel
that's something no one's ever said to me.
I feel like we might have had a breakthrough. Like I think we might have become friends just over.
I gave you money.
You get. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a lady of the night situation.
Hey, you don't pay a prostitute for sex. You pay her to leave. That's what my friend always told me. I didn't buy sex. I bought her to leave.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's awesome. I literally I've had the best time hanging out. I'm so glad that we were able to make this work, and we should do it again. And we should do it again whenever Davey's around. Do you have anything that you want to push or promote through the podcast? Like anything you want to leave listeners with? Like please by all means use the platform.
Don't be a You can beep that one.
Oh my gosh.
No, I think
I love you too.
There is too much. If you watch the news, you watch your news feed. This person's bad. This person, everything's rubbish. Blah 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 blah. The breakdown of everything in this world comes down to there is happiness in this world. You just have to choose where you find it. If you're trying to find it on the television, through a movie, through music, through something, as long as you're finding something that makes your skin go
yes,
and just makes you feel human and alive, whether it be a happy emotion, a sad emotion, anarchy, like just anything. Apathy is an emotion. As long as you are feeling, you are human. And if you can feel, fuck yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Sweet. Well, Alex, it's been wonderful, and I can't wait to have you on again.
Huzzah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of 11ty Life, and a huge thank you to Alex Watts for giving me an amazing afternoon. I loved our conversation that we got to have together. Don't forget, you're an 11ty Life listener. That means you get $5 off any vinyl that you want in the Rock Candy online store. Also, do me a big favor, check out Alex online. We have links to all of his social media in the show notes, alexwattsblog.com. He's a funny guy, salt of the earth, and he's worth checking out. Anyway, I love y'all. We'll see you next week.
11ty Life is a production of Rock